Hello, everybody. My name is Samuel Roncal, and I am so happy to be here on EDA Summit 2023. This session is called How to Keep Target Users Always Up to Date Using Notification Event Pattern and Event Driven Architecture. My full name is Samuel David Roncal Vidal. I am Peruvian, and I am also a Seventh-day Adventist. I have a really nice family, and they are my strong motivation for achieving all of my goals. I am also a systems engineer, and I am also a IEEE student member, and I have some certifications like design thinking, Scrum, and I am always looking for being a better professional. I started working as a banking sector data analyst in Stefanini like 9 years ago. And then I moved to educational sector as a systems analyst, and now I am an academic software coordinator at Universidad Peruana Unión. My favorite programming languages are PHP, Java, and Python. I really love Python. I think it's my favorite programming language. And I also have some favorite platforms like Ionic, and also I love the backend programmation. My favorite research topics are software architecture, event driven architecture, text to speech, and sentiment analysis. Let's talk about notifications. Notifications are very important in modern web applications. Their purpose is to bring information about a status change to the target user. For example, let's think about reactions to social network publications. You can think about some really nice pictures that you have uploaded from your kitty, your doggy, maybe a familiar pig, and some kind of things like that. We can think about bank deposits, transactions, news, emergency notifications also that are really important. And we can say that notifications can be scheduled to be auto-delivered or sent when an event occurs. So let's imagine for a while. Can you imagine using an instant messaging application that doesn't have notification implemented? That's something really hard to think about it. I can say that it's impossible nowadays. How could you respond to a message from your contacts if you are not alerted to it? How could you respond that important invitation for a meeting if you don't receive the alert, the notifications? How could you respond to that? And also we can say, how important is it to be notified in real time? Do you need the invitation for your meeting that is today for tomorrow? That's impossible. You need it some time before. You need the information in real time and in a specific time for being and making the notification useful. So we can make some reflection about it. It will then definitely not be as convenient to use software like that. Software without notifications is not really useful because you don't have the power to make decisions, because you don't have the information in the specific time, in the useful time. Many applications communicate that kind of changes of status, software updates, bug patches, and other informations to the users in the form of notifications. So we have talked about notifications, and now we can talk about events. An event is a change of status, and it triggers the emission of a message. The message is the most important thing here. When we interact between one or more people in instant messaging software, for example, we usually generate a change of status in the conversation. The status change from no pending messages to with pending messages. Let's think about a conversation with a familiar. For example, my sister, I want to send a message to my sister, so I can say, hey, how are you? Are you fine? And her smartphone will make a sound. She will see the notification, and its status changes from no pending messages to with pending messages. That's a status change. The recipients receive something called event notification, which is a message with information of the change of that status. We can talk about now notification event pattern because we know notifications and we know events. Nowadays, there are several ways to implement these solutions. For example, we can make a direct connection using a WebSocket. We can use HTTP2 protocols, no? Upgrade it and make the calls directly and listen directly. And we can use also an intermediate software like a broker. Let's think about the direct subscription. It uses HTTP methods like get and post, retrieve to obtain and make changes to the entity status. Here we can see an example, restaurant sales and delivery area. Delivery area subscribe directly to orders to the restaurant sales because wants to know the new orders. When a new order comes, delivery was hearing for that, it receives the notification and it starts an action for getting the information from the new order. And finally, the channel or maybe the group channel, it depends on the implementation, retrieves the new order details. That's a direct subscription example. And we can see another implementation like the notification event pattern that uses a software like a broker for intermediate. Notification event pattern uses a small event message to indicate that something has changed. The event contains a reference to the data that has changed and reduced additional information. We usually use bytes and strings. We can take that bytes of the string and convert it to JSON, and we can parse it and we can print it in almost every place, and it doesn't depend on frameworks. You can use simple functions like the default ones that exists. Event could be provided to consumers through a subscription source or through a broker. Subscription source, we can talk about direct subscription, or a broker, we can say MQP protocols, RPC protocols, and also HTTP calls is possible. WebSocket also is possible to connect to your broker and send and publish a message using WebSocket is possible. But the main idea is that we use a broker for that, like an intermediate. So we have a new example. We have the same delivery area, the same restaurant sales area, and now we have our broker. We can have one broker software, and we can have a mesh of them. It depends on how complex is your solution. And delivery doesn't subscribe directly to restaurant sales, subscribes to broker, and every time a restaurant sale has a new order, the broker receives that message, and delivery was listening for that. Delivery can get the information because it was listening for it and can click to the action and can start the action of the notification. So all the devices of that group of users will know that a new order is going to be in the list. So it can retrieve the new order details. And that's a notification event pattern example. So it uses event-driven architecture for the purpose of reporting changes to entities. We can talk about event-driven architecture as a pattern that uses events to trigger and communicate between the coupled services. The logic is not mixed. The logic is not in the same place. That logic is decoupled. So you have the sales area information and all the methods that get, post, the lists, and some kind of things of that, the processing of the information also in one place, and in another place you have the broker, and in another place you have the consumer that will start the notification call. Modern application uses that with microservices. Event-driven architecture is a pattern that uses events to trigger and communicate between the coupled services. An advantage of this is to being able to update legacy systems that are so really complex to update or difficult to modify without compromising critical functionality. We can start thinking about some banking solution, for example. And we can say that event-driven architecture is a language-agnostic solution. You can have your consumers in one programming language and your producers in another programming language. You don't need to use the same for that. As we have said, the components are producers, routers, and consumers. Producer generates the events through actions, the routers filters and pushes events to consumers, and consumers listen for events and execute tasks. We have some benefits of this kind of language agnostic solution. It reduces the learning curve because you don't need to learn new programming languages. For example, your main solution is being done in, for example, in Java, and your team programs in Python, for example. So they don't need to start to learn about the new functions and the new versions of Java and all of the information from the new programming language, because it's agnostic, the code is separated, so it reduces the learning curve. It allows the team to elaborate solutions according to their experience and strengths. And also it's easy to migrate in case of a technology improvement, because technology improves almost every day. It reduces dependencies on specific programming languages and technologies, and also on people. And finally, we can find really nice benefits when we start to use event-driven architecture. We can see some use cases: email dispatching, payment processing, fraud detection, performance monitoring. The famous ELK software, for example, gives some information from the performance of your software, and you can show that on a really nice dashboard. For example, using a broker for sending and responding the messages, and storing that and showing that in your software. And of course, notification systems. So let's make the main question of the session: why keep target users always up to date? How value you will win if you do that? This is very important because users need to have the latest information to make really good decisions. They need the information in a specific moment, no with delay. They need without delay. And also notifications allows our users to make better decisions based on something, based on data. They don't make their decisions without a fundament. So this applies at all levels of company: strategic, tactical, and operational levels. It's for everybody. Notification is a feature that users already takes for granted nowadays, so all our solutions need it. We can think about some examples, for example, business application, restaurant franchises. We can think about delivery areas that need the new orders. We have seen that some minutes ago. And we can think on many other cases. For example, a weather change for some trips, for the delivery routes in logistic companies, stock exchanges, courier applications, and many more cases like that. So now let me talk to you, all of you, about my solution. This is my event-driven architecture and notification event pattern solution. I used an Angular client as a producer. My Angular client sends the message to my broker. In this case, I use Solus PubSub Plus. That is really nice. It has tons of functions and a really nice API. So I send and publish the message through the API. And also I have my consumers that are done on Node.js in this case. Okay, it's done in Node.js. It can connect through the API to my event broker, and it can hear all the changes of the states. And also will start the click to action, the call to the action. So my Node socket server will receive the call from my consumer, and finally my Angular client producer will receive the last call with the notification and can print it. And that's the way that all the elements interact between them. So now let's start with the code demo. As I have said some minutes ago, we need producers and consumer. And we have seen some seconds ago that we are going to use Angular application like a producer. So my producer in this case is using Angular and a API for connecting to Solaz broker. So I have a connect button that has the logic and the package information for make the connection alive, the credentials, and it goes through a petition, and the request enables a WS connection. We will see this right now. Let's inspect the code. Let's inspect the code. And let's see our console. Okay, what happens if I make a click on connect? Okay, it prints almost all the actions that are executed because I have the debug mode enabled. But the important thing here is that I have a response that says connected because I am using the default topic connection. So I send the credentials and make the connection. After that, I am able to send the messages from my Angular client application. So let's think about a really good message. For example, let's say this: we love IDA Summit 2023. So let's send the message. And I have two sections about my text area. The first one says send messages, and it prints all the messages that I have going to send, and it also said the source, if it's localhost, if it's my notification server, if it's my broker, we can see that, and also the content. And the second part is the receive messages section. Here I receive through a WebSocket connection the messages, but not from a direct subscription. I receive it because my consumer makes an action and makes a request using WebSocket connection, and my WebSocket server tells my Angular client application that is listening all the time for changes that it happened and status change. So let's see how the information flows, because that's the most important thing here, to understand how is a message going through the different components of our solution. So we can see on network tab that we have a AWS localhost 8008 connection, that is my broker connection. And let me do it again, because you will have to see the WebSocket that is alive. Here you can see localhost 5050, because we need to see how the WebSocket is sending the message. So let's print it, let's connect, let's send the message, and we can see that our localhost 8008 is sending binary messages. Okay, and that's a really nice thing. Also, is saying a Heartbeat message, and Heartbeat messages are really important because it makes the connection alive through your producer and through your broker. If we don't use the Heartbeat messages, we will have our connection dead, because imagine it can be, the first message can happen like 10 minutes ago, 20 minutes ago, and our connection cannot be alive all that time without interaction. So that's an important thing. And the other one is the WebSocket. So here we can see that I have sent a message, and then I have a response message. My broker has told to my WebSocket server that I had an interaction, and it responds to the server. For example, here you can use, all of you can use an API call, for example, HTTP, get all the routes, for example, get all sales, get sales number 1, sales number 2. You can put the content there. So in another tab, I have my Solaz web application. Let me log in, and I am using the default container for this, and also the default section for the tries. So I can establish the connection, but I have to use the same topic because I want to subscribe to that topic. I want to have that kind of message. It says that you can have different topics and different consumers hearing different messages, and that's really, really nice. Let's use the default one. The default one is called tutorial topic. Okay, so let's replace that and let's connect to it. I am connected and now I am subscribed. So if we send the message again, we can see that we are receiving the messages here on our broker. And that's a really, really nice thing because now we can see what is happening on our broker. For example, for the broker, we are using a Node.js file and a Node.js application, and almost every time our Node.js consumer detects a message, it sends a call to my WebSocket server with the argument. In this case, our message. So what happened to our WebSocket application, WebSocket server? We can see it here. Just a minute. We are going to see there. Okay, and that's it. I have started it and I received all the messages. I have made some previous calls and this is my last call. We love IDA Summit 2023. So when my WebSocket server received that sign from my broker, my Angular client application is ready because it was listening almost all the time. So my subscription to my WebSocket connection says to that there is a new message and you need a new response. We can see the second response, and we can also change this for a new message, and we can see that it's working again. So this is the way that message goes around our different components on our solution. It has tons of benefits. For example, you can have more than one consumer for doing this task. You can execute complex actions because you have it decoupled. Okay, you can use different technologies. I use Node for the consumer. I use Angular for the client producer. I also use a really nice one, Solus Broker, for managing all of these messages. So you can see and you can build your solution based on your strengths. Finally, we are going to see the console from our Solus Broker that is receiving all the bytes, the binary attachment, and then making the parse. And in that way, our Angular application can print the content response from Broker. And that's all the things that we can see here on our live demo. So let's talk about the conclusions. Event-driven architecture allows to use more than one consumer, and it can give a big improvement of performance because you can make some scalable solutions based on hardware or cloud solutions. It depends on the case. Client applications acting as a producer can forget about all the logic required to connect to the WebSocket because it's decoupled, and it allows the software functionality to be decoupled. Consumer and producer can be in different programming language, and that's why we talk about the agnostic solution paradigm. And finally, we can see that notification event pattern uses event-driven architecture for the purpose of reporting changes to entities. And that's the really good answer to our main question, why it's important to keep our users always up to date, because they need to make really good decisions based on information on a specific time, on the useful time, and we can use event-driven architecture for that. I only want to say all to you, thank you, and remember, wisdom first of all, acquire wisdom, above all, your possessions, acquire intelligence. Have a really, really nice day. Thanks.